I did finish this. I guess, more or less. I guess this is finished. Fucking ugh. I mean, there's not much to it. It's almost like just a colourful doodle in it, but I think it's quite cool. It's a neat little thing. Uzi the Goblin sharing a ciggy cig with a cat within the realm of sludge life. Speaking of Uzi, I only went and did another T-shirt, didn't I? God, that was I was going to say that was like a, not an unrelated, but like a tenuous link. It's not a tenuous link. That's him, and that's his tag, his iconographic tag. He paints Uzi pictures everywhere. And I put one on a T-shirt because see, look, it says Uzi. It's Uzi's Uzi. That's all the taggers sort of character symbol things that they paint. And Uzi does Uzi, and I put it on a shirt. And look how fucking neat that came out. That looks like it's drawn on, but that's painted with spray paint and stencils, just like I did the Siggy Sig shirt from before. But way more intricate. Like this little red area here was a little bit of paper I had to cut out and stick on. Same as this one and this one and this one. And this and this and this. Little bits of paper to mask with the black paint and a bit around it. And I didn't record the process on this one because it just fucking took so long. Well, it didn't take that long, but it looks cool, doesn't it? Look at that. Oh, crisp and clean. Like a Krispy Kreme. And that's all I've got to say about that. Pew! What are we doing today? What are we doing? What are we doing today? 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 Boo boo. Ho! I felt that. I think I mentioned at one point wanting to do just a shitload of nurgle drawings in my sketchbook. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've got, well, let's go from there's not much in on this side. Obviously that's all fucking full up and shit. That's all old and boring now. Gives a shit about that. Oh, excuse me. But now we've got this side. There's this rat guy. He's just hanging out. He's chilling. He's all good. He's alright, he's fine. This, I drew that on a weird thing, and he's a smiley face in his sword. Oh, god damn it. I bit my tongue earlier and it really hurts. So sometimes my speech might slur, even more than normal. I'm not going to say slurs, but my speech might slur together. I might say slurs, I probably won't. I don't tend to do that too much nowadays. And then I did these of like practicing some bellies, some Death Guard Plague Marine bellies, because I never know what to put on their tummy tums. So it's just some ideas for that. And then I thought it'd be cool to have like some black and white Death Guard drawings, and then have a big fucking Great Unclean one, a big colourful Great Unclean one drawing, fucking taking up a whole bunch of fucking space and shit. So that's that. So now we can sit quietly while I do that, and you can enjoy the ASMR of me doing that. I think one of the reasons I sort of like and enjoy and also maybe relate to Big Daddy Nurgle so much is because he reminds me of my dad. Like, actually, I think I have a picture of him somewhere. I think I have more than one picture. The main picture I have is like just his head, and you can see he's got a nice big chin. I think I've got like a full body picture, but from years and years ago. Big fat man he was before he sadly passed away. And yeah, he's sort of, when I think of the Great Unclean one, it does kind of make me think of my dad a little bit, which maybe isn't nice to say. Like, there are many sort of characters, fictional characters, non-human fictional characters that you can compare people to, and they could be like, oh, I see the resemblance, that's quite nice, quite sweet. But then if you say, oh yeah, the Great Unclean One reminds me of my dad, it's a little bit like, oh, well, that's pretty horrendous. What an awful thing to say. Like, if I showed my dad a picture of the Great Unclean One and went, hey dad, look, it's you, he'd smack me on the back of my thigh with his giant hand, like he used to do when I was a child. And I only really mentioned that because I was reminded of it with my breathing that I did just a moment ago. Because my dad he didn't breathe quite like that, but he used to breathe really heavily, which I sort of was vaguely aware that was, his weight and health issues and stuff. But I never fully understood it. But nowadays, if I if I go up my stairs too quickly, I have to sit down and I'm like, not quite as bad as that, but you get the idea. And yeah, so now it's like, oh, I get it. It's sort of aging and not taking care of yourself and just being in generally poor health. Fucks you up, and you've got to do what you can to take care of yourself. So I'm not doing all I can to take care of myself, but all fucking ready this year. And this year, there's only been 14 days of the year as of recording. I'm feeling a lot more positive and productive, and that I feel like I could be a lot more proactive about things with how things are going at the moment. So I might then be able to feel that I can take better care of myself. So that's good. Anyway, all of that's a fucking tangent, because I actually had a thing I was going to talk about, which is Squid Game! Ah! Pew, 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 pew! Squid Game, Squid Game. You know, the theme tune from Squid Game, Squid Game. You gotta play in the Squid Game. Oh no, it's dangerous in the Squid Game. Do, 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 do. From Korea, it's a Squid Game. They know how to make shit in Korea. But it's South and not the North. It's the good Korea where they make good shit like Squid Game. Do, 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 do. You know, the Squid Game soundtrack, original soundtrack, the theme song. And to be fair, the music in Squid Game is one of the best parts of it. It's a really, really good show, obviously, but the music is really, really well chosen, well utilised, well done. Big bloody well done. Right, so I really like this face. I wasn't sure about it when I was just doodling it, but I actually really like how it's coming out. That's cool. So Squid Game Season 2 happened. It's been and gone. And now everyone's waiting for Season 3. And I have thoughts about it. I have thoughts about Squid Game Season 2 specifically. I have thoughts about Squid Game in general. And I'm going to share some of those today. So this isn't like, it's not a Squid Game episode, but I just, if I were going to draw some shit, hang out, talk about Squid. Right, so basically, in a very, very similar way, you could even say in an identical way to how I approached the first season, was I was really blasé about it. I just didn't really care. Everyone was going on and on and on, and I was like, yeah, fucking whatever. It was the same with Game of Thrones. Everyone was telling me how brilliant it was. I tried watching some of it, bored my tits off, didn't care for it. And that tends to be how it goes with like popular things. Whenever something's popular, I'm immediately not suspicious of it, but skeptical. I'm immediately skeptical, and I don't trust people's opinions to actually be worth listening to. So when every fucking fucker out there saying, "Oh, you've got to watch Squid Game, it's amazing," I was like, fucking shut up. Fucking shut up. Like I say to myself all the time, because I need to shut up sometimes. But one night I figured, whatever, I'll just put the first episode on while I'm drawing or whatever, of the original series when it first came out. And then 9 hours later, I'd finished watching it because I just sat there and watched the entire goddamn show. Because, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and go, it's one of the best shows in recent years. Maybe it is. But at the very least, it's well written and well structured enough that it keeps you hooked. Like, there's enough tension and drama and shit and thrill and action and suspense going on, especially towards the end of each episode, where you're just like, oh no, what's going to happen next? So you have to watch the next episode, and that was my approach to the first season, and the exact same thing happened this time around. Again, I was very skeptical about there being a second season, because it's like anything, they keep making them and making them and making them to the point where they ruin it. And Koreans, like in the theme song that I recreated beautifully, Koreans make good shit. I could be wrong, but I think Old Boy is Korean. I'm probably completely wrong about that. Is Old Boy a Korean movie? Not the new one with fuckface, what's his, Thanos in it. I think that was the guy who played Thanos. Come on, Google, don't be that bad today. Old Boy is a South Korean action. Yeah, Old Boy. One of the best films ever made. Old Boy is just fucking glorious. And it's Korean. That Parasite film that won an Oscar, Korean. Squid Game, Korean. Like, Kim Jong-gi was Korean before he fucking died. Just Korean arts, man. I assume South Korean. Maybe North Korea has good art, or could have good art if it wasn't, so North Korean all of the time. Not that I know anything about North Korea to be talking about it like that, but fucking whatever. They know how to make good shit. So I didn't necessarily think, it's not going to be as good as the first one, because it's going to be, just the next season, it's going to be watered down or whatever. Yeah. But I was a little bit skeptical about it. I don't really, because the first one created a lot of hype, and that always worries me about things. So I wasn't sure, but I figured, whatever. I'll just put on the first episode, see how it is. And then 7 hours later, this time, I finished watching the whole show, because it's just really, really good. It's very, very enjoyable, engaging, intriguing, suspenseful, really well made. That's how I've said is how I tend to consume media these days, is from the perspective of looking at it as if, like, in the same way I look at comics. I don't look at comics typically at all, ever, in terms of story, but just literally how they are physically made, how a person sat down and made a thing. And that's how I enjoy watching shows and films and such, is knowing that this is a thing that people sat down at a desk and made in an afternoon. So the production value of Squid Game is insane. The sets and everything, with the staircases and all of that, and just the game, where the game sets where they play the games and shit, costumes obviously, etc. Just really, really, really good show, very good. And it's all very good because it's well done and it's all very good. So I had that to say about it. I have notes. Very, very brief notes. Okay, right. Yeah. So, Jesus, all of that is to lead me to say like two things about it. One thing, quite a funny thing, is what shows and films like that do. If you watch them for long enough, and you know you're watching Squid Game for 6+ hours, if you're sitting and watching the entire thing like a loser who has nothing else going on in their life, it almost tricks me into thinking I can speak Korean, because I watch it with subtitles, because fuck ever watching that shit with dubbed or whatever, because the words pop up on screen, so I read them, but I sort of detach myself from focusing on them, so I'm sort of half reading them, half looking at the screen and what's going on, and then hearing them speak. And through that process, through hearing them speak, I am still understanding what they are saying. It doesn't feel like I'm necessarily reading the subtitles. It feels like they are talking and I'm watching the thing and understanding what they are saying. And then I like look away for a minute just to fucking fiddle with something or look at my phone or whatever. And then I look up and I realise, oh shit, I have no idea what's going on. I've just missed 2 minutes of dialogue. And all I heard was Korean sounds, Korean. The subtitle comes up speaking in Korean instead of actually translating what the fuck they're saying. And I don't know what happened, so I have to skip back and rewatch the bit and actually pay attention. That's just a funny little anecdote, like a little note about watching films with subtitles of things. They make you feel like you can speak the language, but you can't. And you go, oh no, I missed it now. I've got to watch that bit again. They're funny, a bit relatable, funny. So this from here on, there may well be spoilers. I might talk about Squid Game in such a way that it spoils it for you if you've not already seen it. And if that's something you care about, then you figure it out. So season 2 ended at its 7th episode at a very sudden moment, to the point where legitimately I had to Google if I'd missed an episode. If it was on Netflix, but like if an episode hadn't come out yet, or if I'd missed something, or if I somehow hadn't seen a bit, or if there was something coming later that I was unaware of, because it ramps up, especially in the last episode. Really ramps up, and then almost just abruptly ends with things still happening. Not even like something's about to happen or something's just happened. Things are currently happening, and then the season just ends, and it's like, but because they got the guns and all the ex-marines, and then the one fucked off and he was scared, and then there's the trans woman and she's fucking all the magazines and then they ran out of, and then the staircase and the bit, and then the front man, and he's the player from the and I just fucking it. So I googled, what the fuck, is that it? Is that the end of season 2? Is that it? Is this it? Is that the whole bit? Is that the whole thing? And Google said, yeah, that's it. But what I did find out was apparently and this may already be common knowledge and I only just found it out, but I'm sharing it regardless. I'm just sharing my experience. Apparently they wrote seasons 2 and 3 together at the same time and decided, in terms of telling the story, apparently, that episode 7 is the best place to end it for that season, to then carry on for the next season, which I understand. I get it. As a storyteller myself, a creator of comics and such that have vague stories, I get it. You need to find the correct place to live. I don't know what I'm talking about, but so yeah, I'm not mad about it, but I'm a little bit mad about it. Because sure, you leave it at the most suspenseful moment and the best place that you feel to lead into the next season, which apparently will be coming this year, which makes sense because I've got to assume they sort of made them at or around the same time, or are currently making or finishing making season 3. Especially if they're written at the same time, then it's going to theoretically comprise basically all the same characters, at least for the start of season 3. So they would have shot it all together, I guess. But it's just a little bit infuriating. Because if the show wasn't so good, then I'd be like, whatever, I can wait till the next season. It's really whatever. But I need to sit there for fucking 7 hours watching this shit to then be told, that's it for now, tune in later in the year. Like, come on, give me something here, Jesus.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Gun Viking is go! Thunderbirds, innit? From back in the... I had a Thunderbird's little outfit when I was a kid. The little jumpsuit and hat. I used to walk around like this, like a puppet. I still do that walk sometimes when I have female company. I go, hey look, I'm a Thunderbird. And I make my mouth move like theirs do. And then they leave. The person leaves because they don't know what Thunderbirds is. I'm not going to dwell too much on these. I just got them out just to look at them because I was like, oh cool, because excuse me, I had the art out on my bed. I was looking at it as a whole of the most recent Gun Viking issue 6, which I'm working on, which is close to being done. Very, very close to being done. So I was looking at all that art, getting it sort of ready to be made into a thing. And then I got these out just so I could sort of look at them and be like, yeah, cool, wow. Because it's a good year. Because 2015. I know I've said already about Gun Viking is, the publishing of Gun Viking is 10 years old this year. I think it came out in April or May, so I may try to coincide with that sort of time. I will do like a grand Gun Viking. I think in about 10 weeks it will be my 300th episode of the podcast. I might be able to make it coincide with that. 300th episode of the podcast, 10-year anniversary of Gun Viking, some big 3-hour special, all Gun Viking gee. We'll see. Anyway, we'll get to issue 6 in a bit. I'm just going to quickly, just briefly flip through and remember some of the good times, some of the, bad times, some of the bad art we can look at. Not much though, because it's all really good. Even today, it's visibly older art compared to what I do now, but I still really like a lot of it. I love this. I really, really love this panel to this day. I love that. The smile, I love the hairs, the way I painted the hairs, like his nose and the lighting and stuff. I really, really do like that panel. I did really well there. Aren't I brilliant? Aren't I bloody brilliant? I like some of the angles with the guns and stuff I had, and like the barrel being all over the place as it's going bam, 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 bam. I used a lot fewer layers of paint A lot less layers does kind of make sense, but not quite. So fewer is sort of more appropriate there. So you can see the background bleeding through a lot of the layers because I use thicker paint later on. This pile of bodies needs some work. That's one of the reasons I wanted to redo and still plan on redoing the first 6 pages up to this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because it makes a really nice little introduction to Gun Viking. Start off with a little head explosion and he's just shooting a bunch of cocksuckers for a couple of pages, and then a pile of dead bodies and it's Gun Viking, and your men are for naught. Those are not my men, these are my men. So I want to like update this, redo the pile of bodies because it needs to be redone because it's not that good. And that will make like a nice frontage piece to show off Gun Viking to a more modern era, a decade later. And then they go back and read the first issue if they're lucky enough to get a hold of it and go, this is all shit. Why does it look shit now instead of good like it's supposed to? Love that panel. This is still one of my favourite spreads from the whole series, where he... Again, back in the day, this was just a load of fun. I just threw some shit together because I was like, oh, and then this will happen, and then this will happen. And then he'll see all the weapons on the ground after he's got no ammo. Oh, no, not that he's got no ammo. He sees his bullets aren't hurting the zombies. And then he sees all these weapons on the ground, as well as a hand, and he gets an idea. So he picks all the weapons up, stuffs them in this cannon that he got from somewhere, the big popper cannon, and blasts these weapons at the zombies, and it chops them up. All the zombies get chopped. I love this page, the colours in the zombie skin, as the body parts are getting chopped off, and this head split in half. You can see his brain and his eyes coming out, fingers and shit going everywhere. That's, like, if I'm at a comic convention and I have this available, which I don't often, but if I do, this is like the spread I have open because it's like fucking Gun Viking. That's the good one that draws people in. The ear, one of the only instances of Gun Viking's ear being visible. Look how chunky his face was. I feel like I don't draw him as chunky as I used to. Like every bit of him is just like fucking... Ugh. I love this guy's little face here. Unintentionally, but his face kind of looks like a baby skull where they have all like the adult teeth in there just waiting to come out. Because he just got just fucking shitload of teeth because I thought it would look cool. And it does. And then he squishes his head. No, you can't! And then he does. And then... the Mountain King! Oh, I really like this bit as well. Oh, fuck. I looked up how animators animate mouths and like what mouth shapes they use to make letters. And so I got the O, F, U and K. Oh, fuck. See if that was animated. And I even back then I thought it would be cool to do. And now I've done a tiny little bit of animation here and there. It might be fun to animate just this face saying, oh, fuck. But then it won't have context, so maybe I'll animate the entire comic one day. That would actually be amazing, but it would be like a lifetime's work to animate, you know, the entire thing. That was issue 1. Issue 2, this is almost the most sought after issue. Issue 1, I did reprint issue 1, but I never reprinted issue 2, and so issue 2 is a little bit more rare than issue 1. I love the opening. I really like the panel layout, and then this, the way I did, I like drew it and blocked it in like the underpainting like I normally do, and then I cut a stencil for these purple bits and sprayed it. So he's just got these little highlights coming from underneath, and then he's got the red of his eye and the orange of his mouth sort of giving form there, and the little bursts of his guns, of Gun Viking's guns. The Mountain King fighting him and shit. The Mountain King was really fun to paint. Just big blocks of blobby paint. And that's, even early on, I was able to get like large areas in shadow and then a few areas in light just to show the chunky rock formation of this giant rock behemoth creature. I'm not too keen on these panels. Like, you can see what I was doing. He jumps and catches onto it and then runs up its arm or whatever. The running pose isn't great, but it's sort of whatever. I really like this panel though, where he jumps up and he's about to blast him, and then this I'm always a bit like about it. Sometimes I look at it and I think meh, and sometimes I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Where it's just around his head, shooting and shooting and shooting. I really like this panel. I love that. I was really happy with that. That's where I drew it and then underpainted it and then spray painted red and painted just a little bit of orange on top of it to get the glowing burst of red light, and then painted the rocks on top of that, still having some of it bleed through, and then behind it, and then painted these like sparks, these flashy parts. Like it's in an anime, like something splits apart and then shines from beneath and then bursts. That's basically what's happening there. And then he collapses into a pile of rocks. I really like the lighting here, where I used some orange, like a wet orange paint for the underpainting, and then painted the rocks around and on top of that, so it leaves like this quite bright orange glow beneath the rocks. This will come back later on. We'll reference that in a little bit. Had a go at painting the Northern Lights. It's not perfect, but for, you know, almost 10 years ago, that's pretty decent for what it is. You can see where I had like a wide brush, fairly dry, and I was like dragging it up to make all these upward sort of fading lines, and then just did that with a few layers. And it kind of works. You can see what it is. It's, you know, wet on wet for the background. It kind of works for like a night sky. I was pretty happy with that. I also like how he's about to get attacked by this Cyclops snow tiger, and he's like, oh no, and then suddenly he's made a tent out of it and he's eating its meat. And then he gets beaten on the head and dragged away by some busty blonde babe. Hot stuff. I said I wasn't going to spend too much time on this, but whatever. So that was 2016. And then this one came out 4 years later in 2020. Hui. Sometimes it's hard to make a comic regularly, but I finally put out issue 3. I think this is really funny still. I just couldn't be fucked drawing and painting their faces in every panel, so I ended up just drawing fucking shapes like it's a Muppet. Like fucking whatever, you get the idea, it's fine. I really like this pose and painting. I quite like Gun Viking without his helmet. He looks pretty badass. The crevasse. That's shit. I always hated that. I did that 2 or 3 times. I just couldn't get it to look how I wanted it to. And still, it's just not a great panel. I'm quite happy with this, but it needs to be busier. If I was going to redo it. I'd love to redo all of Gun Viking. It doesn't need to be done, but still. If I was going to redo this, I'd make this a lot busier. I'd maybe shrink it down so I could fit more in, and I don't know. Again, it doesn't really need it, but it's fucking whatever. Still very, very happy with this. That was a first try, just a little doodle. A chariot being pulled by these 2 beasts. And this is very funny as well. You can help me ready the steeds. And then he sees the steeds and he's like, your steeds are strange. They've got these flat faces and horns. These basically came to me in a dream. I almost saw them in my head in my sleep, and I was like, that's what the steeds have to look like. These weird lizard bull creatures with flat faces and horns sticking out. And that one's licking the ground. There's little tongues coming out there. They're funny faces. This is a really fun issue. I really enjoyed this one. I love this bit where they come up against the marauders and they catapult this giant rock at them and it goes shoo. These panels are really good. I fucked up with the directional parts of it, but like you can see the ground as well. The snow's all like dirt and mush where they've pressed it into the dirt. There's puddles and stuff. I was really happy with the painting of that. And they pull the rock back. They've obviously built some kind of catapult system. They fling it up, pull it back, flings up, shoots down towards them and goes boom into the snow. But it's right next to them. And the lighting on this is really, really good. I like this panel. Little paintings of little people are always good. And then that one, I've spoken about it before. I feel like I could have done a bit better, but it's whatever. And then he goes red rage mode. And I was really, really happy that this was all painted as you see it. Like, I didn't use a red filter on Photoshop or anything. I painted this in those colours. I mixed colours in a certain way to look a lot more red, while still looking kind of... It looks like purple and yellow with a red filter over it, but it's not. I painted it in those colours. That's colour theory and shit. Isn't that cool? And then she's like, so it's 3 days. We'll make it in 2. Gun Viking 4. This might be one of my favourites that I've ever done. There's parts I like in each of them, but I think as a full issue, I think Gun Viking 4 is my favourite. Possibly got the best cover as well. Number 3 actually might be my favourite cover, and then number 4. Number 4 takes place at the fucking wherever with the big bad evil guy, who, I don't know, I think I did him quite well. It's nothing spectacular, but it's whatever. It's my head on a pole. Flashback to how it all came to be. Gun Viking's village being ravaged and burned. Something falling from the sky in the woods. Child Viking runs towards it. It's a cosmonaut in a tree. There's a gun. He picks it up, and the rest is history, as they say. He gets his hands cut off, or spoilers if you haven't read Gun Viking, by the way. Gets his fucking arms cut off, his hands or whatever at the wrists. I love this page. Really, really happy with that. Like the way the arms look and the way they're just cut off and these pools of blood underneath him. And then the famous scene. He gets up. Ideally, if I was putting this out like an actual published comic with a publisher, this scene would be like a fold out bit. So from here, and you'd fold it out to see these pages as his arms transform into these gun arms, and he really is the Gun Viking. I love these pages as well, of him blasting these fools. I like this little guy running away. I like all the shells. I love the bodies and shit. It's getting shot to pieces. I like this as well because it looks like they're all flying up. Like, I don't know, they're all just popping in the air. Like, poof, 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 poof. It's like intestines and shit on the floor. And then the guns fall off. I feel like I could have done more with him having gun arms. It only lasts a few pages, and then his hand grows back through the power of whatever. That's a great sequence. I really love that. And he makes a gun appear in his hand, shoots the guy's head off. I mean, I did, like I say, I wasn't going to go all the way through it. And then the end of volume 1. Love the skulls, man. Those are really, really well done. Where he is now the big bad evil guy. Issue 5 coming soon. These were printed at the same time, hence the available now. I don't think I put a date in these ones of when they were. No, but they'd be a while ago. And then issue 5, Gun Viking being a bad guy and then, I don't know, regretting his decisions. I quite like this page and these panels. Gun Viking sitting pensively in his chambers, and then just random a lizard and a rat just because fucking whatever. I think that was literally just to fill up space. Look at that. That's one of the paintings, and I think with good cause, that I'm most proud of in all of the Gun Viking comics. And it's not even Gun Viking or anything. It's a skeleton in a tree. All the flowers and the lighting and stuff. Oh, I forgot about that bit. Where he's traversing the land with his horse. Through Arctic tundra, through swamps, through grasslands. He's got a map. He finds the forest glowing with the thing in the middle. And then he's picked up his horse and he's running with it. It'll be quicker like this. Let's just go. Finds the tree, and there's a cult around the tree. I was really eager to do this. To have a cult formed around this. I don't know how well it translates, but like the whole forest is dead apart from this one tree, which is the tree that the cosmonaut landed in. The interdimensional radiation has caused the tree to be alive, and so they've all formed a cult around it as some kind of mystical energy, and they've hung up these totems and things. And then the god Viking comes unto them, and he goes, "Bind him!" And they all try to tie him down. "Eat of his flesh, drink of his blood." See, because that's what they did to Jesus, kind of. Not saying that Gun Viking is like Jesus, but they see Gun Viking as a Jesus type figure, maybe, which is incorrect. And so he kills them all, shoots them all to pieces. Like in a zombie film, you have the sequence of people getting eaten by zombies. In a Gun Viking comic, you have the sequence of people being shot to pieces by the Gun Viking. Face, that's a good one. That's a really good panel. And I love this one as well, where he's left them dead in almost a perfect circle, and he's just strolling towards the shadow of the tree. And then you've got the tree split into two, him now looking up at the dead cosmonaut in the tree, him then as a kid in the black and white times, the cosmonaut in the tree, trying to figure out what it's all about. He sees this green drip off the tree, and he's like, "What the fuck is this?" Something leaking out of the tree from a bullet hole. Pulls out an axe, starts chopping and chopping, makes a hole in the tree, tears it open, and it's some kind of fucking portal, and he gets sucked in. And that, I think, was 2022, 2023 maybe, at least a couple of years ago. So this is a part where I'm always a bit iffy about, like, is it better to, when I have a new comic, a new issue of Gun Viking, for instance, is it better to just drop it almost out of nowhere without showing anything leading up to it, so people go, "Oh my god, it's a new Gun Viking, I have to get it to see what's up"? Or is it better to show some of it to, like, whet people's appetite, so they go, "Oh, I've seen this bit and that bit, I need to know what happens next, let me get the comic"? I don't know. I have yet to see evidence that one or the other is better. I feel like it's almost been just as popular if I drop it suddenly or if I show shit building up to it. But what I'm going to show now is what I have so far of issue 6. So this is brand new, the next issue of Gun Viking, several years later. He's just been walked into the tree. Somewhere else entirely. Obviously in a science lab or something. There's people doing science in a microscope, looking at lab rats and shit. Data. This guy's got a jar, a bottle with some shit in it, and then these two will be saying science, science, because they're doing science together with each other. And then this guy's chilling with a sandwich, and then this thing goes whip whip, and it's an alarm, and it goes bwap 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 bwap, scares the shit out of him eating his sandwich, and he runs off and he goes, "The gateway, it's open. The gateway, impossible. The gateway, bwap 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 bwap." This is the gateway with the psh. So that will be a double page spread. So you'll open it up, you'll open up the comic, and there'll be the inside of the front cover, and then this page, and there'll be some text here or here saying somewhere else entirely. So that will make you go, "Oh, I have to turn it to read it." And that's how, because this comic, this issue is set in an alternate dimension, so it has to be viewed in an alternate way. Yeah, it's clever. Yeah. Also, it's mostly, this is finished artwork. This is how it will appear in print with speech bubbles and stuff. Because it's in an alternate dimension, it's black and white because it's a science lab, it's in the future, it's clean and clinical, so I kept it black and white for that reason. Also, it's easier to draw that way. So that's going to be a double page spread, and then the next double page spread, if you're ready for this. I love this. I'm so happy with how this came out. I struggled with it so much. I did like 3 or 4 different versions of it until I got what I feel I'm happy with. The gateway, and he's bursting out of it. This beast, whoever the fuck this beast is, it's kind of... And the cables and tubes and shit, those are always fun to draw. So yeah, that's another double page spread. I think the centre line will be sort of there, so the important parts are either side of that, so that's good. I have to insert this bit because, being the dummy I am, I forgot to say that's that bit. That's because that's why I mentioned that earlier, and that's gonna be later on, because it's like it's not a 1-to-1, but I got that from this because that's the beast, and now he's the beast, but he's the beast now, so it's like he was, and it's all times a flat circle, and it's a callback, and it's a call forward, and it's a whole fucking, you get it. It's because I'm smart. It's a sign of how intelligent I am and good at shit. He's fucking. It'll be easier if I do it this way. Bam, against the glass, because it's the whole thing is in some kind of containment chamber, and they're like, oh, "What the fuck is this? This crazy beast is in the containment chamber of our gateway. What's going on?" Rah, rah. He's bashing against the glass, and they're all like, "Oh fuck." And then there's a boardroom, and the guy's like, "So according to this data, you blah blah blah," and the guy bursts in, fucking gateway, what's the meaning of this interruption? The gateway, the fucking gateway, don't you give me that, oh blah 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 blah. And he'll be saying, "Is that gunshots?" Yes, it fucking is gunshots. Look at that shit. Oh, he's back. He's not quite the same, but he's back. Look at him. Gun beast. Blah, 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 blah. I might add in some more blams across the top and bottom, but that's basically it. They're running. Blah, 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 blah. Oh my god, what's happening? Pang, 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 pang. It's not getting through the containment chamber of the glass. Oh my god, what's happening? Is that guns? What's going on? Oh my god, I don't know what's happening. Oh. You might note, see, because Gun Viking is an interdimensional or alternate dimensional being in this dimension, so to show that contrast, part of it is keeping this part in black and white whilst having Gun Viking or the beast in colour. So it's clever is what it is. It's fucking clever. And then he's shooting his guns, he's blah 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 blah, and then he's like, is he done? And he's going to have a speech bubble here of just incoherent screaming and yelling, and then pumph, bam, he's punching against the glass, bam, 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 and he's like, is this going to hold? What's happening? And then he's like, or he might be saying, it sounds like he's talking language. Like, talking language? What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, I hear words in there, and he's going to be saying some shit, be like, something, and then he's like, get me the translator. And then the phone call coming from the lab, and he goes, I'll be there. And he's driving to the lab, and this is the translator, and he shows up, and he's like, oh, don't be too spooked. This is not like anything you've seen before. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And he sees it and goes, oh my god, what is it? And then he's here going, well, that sure is something, as he's looking into the chamber at this fucking beast. So you said this thing was talking, and he's spooked, and he's like, this is insane, what are you doing? Please, we need your help. Okay, let me compose myself. Let's see. And then he's talking, and Gun Viking, Gun Beast, whatever, is going, and he's trying to decipher, because it sounds like language, but they don't know what kind of language. So he's looking in his books. It sounds Nordic, but we don't know. Get the translator to... He's looking, and he's like, okay, let me try this. So he tries speaking in his language, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. And Gun Viking's going, roar, and he goes, oh, let me try this. Blah, 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 blah. And he's going, roar, and he goes, all right, one last try. Well, not one last try, but he goes, okay, let me try this. And he says something else, and then that's all I've got so far. There are 8 more pages to go. I have them all roughed at the appropriate size. All I have to do is trace them up, ink them, paint in Gun Viking, and then it's done. Another week tops. Paint a cover for it. I might do that on the next podcast, and it'll be ready to go to print. It's exciting times. So that's my main gripe, if any, about the Squid Game season 2 specifically. Is just that it annoyed me that it ended as abruptly as it did. But that's whatever. Also, if he went back into the games, and when he was in there the first time, he was the last player 456, and then player number 1, the very first player, he found out later on was actually a guy who was basically running the game. He was in charge of the games, but that guy put himself into the game as a player, and then he was like not coercing, but sort of lying to and tricking the main character throughout the whole thing. Then he got put back into the game again as the last player 456, and again ended up making quite close friends with player number 1, the first player, who he hasn't found out yet, but we know is in charge of the games. But why doesn't he have any inkling? Because he's got this whole thing of, I know how these games work to a degree, because I played them before. I played these games before. You're all going to die. But why doesn't he have, or isn't shown at least, to have the slightest inkling that player number 1 might be in on it? He doesn't have any kind of suspicion. From all the stuff that happened, that was one of the main things he should have taken away after his first time in the games, is that player number 1 was a bastard who was in on it the whole time, and now he just... Anyway, so that's like my tiddly, pissy little nothing gripes, little moany, bitchy moans about Season 2 specifically. Now, this is where we get into the Ewan rant about class war and inequality and capitalism and the rest of it. So it's always bugged me how... Oh, excuse me. I mean, I understand a popular show is popular, becomes popular, and people want to do stuff from that show. Squid Game is about games, so people want to do the games and whatever. In one degree, it's like making fan art of Sludge Life, or printing out a shitload of photos and putting them into an album and making a little box and making t-shirts. All about this game you're into. And like, if you're into Squid Game, sure, cool, fine, whatever, express that in any way you see fit. The issue arises when people are obviously, and this isn't even, I don't feel that me saying this is cynical, I feel this is plainly there to be seen. People are using Squid Game's popularity to boost themselves within algorithms and such. Make content about Squid Game. Squid Game's very popular. People will click on it. It will get you more views, more shares, potentially more revenue if you make content about Squid Game. I think that's fair to say. That shouldn't be something that you can really argue. That's like anything that's popular. You make content about it, that content's going to be seen more than content that's about fucking whatever your fucking nan is reading at the moment. I don't know, whatever. People are doing that. People are making content about Squid Game because it's popular, and so they have content that gets popular and whatever. But see, I have thoughts about this. I have many thoughts, and maybe not concerns, but maybe slightly concerns about it, because it just... So Squid Game is put out by Netflix. I feel silly for not looking more into whatever actual like production company or director or whatever made it, because there are people who made this that aren't probably Netflix. Netflix probably just bought the rights to the show as opposed to, you know, strictly making it themselves. Because if Netflix made it, it would be shit, because 99% of everything Netflix makes is shit. But it's put out by Netflix, which means Squid Game itself is a corporate product in that way. So sort of whatever, its artistic merit is questionable because of that. But the point is, my main takeaway from that sort of thing is the point of Squid Game. The whole thing the show is about is rich people exploiting the lower classes, like the top 1% or less, exploiting the bottom zillion percent for their own means, and not just to profit off of, but literally as entertainment, like they are nothing. He says, I think in the end of season 1 maybe, or at some point he says, you people are horses that we bet on, like you would, you know, at a betting shop, like the main character does in, I think, the first episode. He bets on the horses. See, it's clever like that. The show sort of, it fucking does the whole thing. So that's the point of the show, is it's exploitation of the working classes and feeding off of the desperation they feel, which is a true desperation because they're in dire straits, usually because of the upper classes, the upper 1%. And to the upper class, it's nothing to them. They don't give a shit. It's purely entertainment. Sure, they make money off of it through gambling or investors or whatever else. So there is a financial incentive for them to do it. But ultimately, as stated again, I believe at the end of season 1 by the old fucking cocksucker, that he had so much money that life wasn't interesting anymore. So he set up Squid Game to have fun, to make life interesting. And that's the crux of the thing, is that. And then you have Mr. Beast, and I think there's I don't know if it is Mr. Beast related, but I know there's like a Squid Game challenge, like a reality game show based on Squid Game and its games and such. And you have Mr. Beast's version that was done after season 1, I think, where he made a real thing and he made the whole arena with the red light, green light, and he made Squid Games real. Oh my god, I can't believe he did the real thing. Oh, he's so good. Mr. Beast's got all the money in the world and he's using it to exploit people for his own game. And that's the point. So let's take Mr. Beast as an example, because he's, you know, a fucking shit light that we can point to in the distance. He sets up his own Squid Game. Hey, let's make it real. Wouldn't it be crazy if Squid Game was real? And then he gets random people, come on, get involved, sign up, and you can play in the Squid Game. And people do, and people line up to partake in the real Squid Game for Mr. Beast's gain. It's almost literally what's happening in the show Squid Game. Mr. Beast is profiting off of exploiting people who want to partake in the real Squid Game. They come along to his fucking warehouse, his stadium that he's set up. They joyously, they leap at the chance to take part, to be in a Mr. Beast video. Oh my god, they might get noticed. They might be able to make content out of it. They might win some money. Those people are literally game pieces for, in this instance, Mr. Beast, to make a video saying, hey, look everyone, I made Squid Game. Millions upon millions of views, probably. I don't care enough to look it up, but and so he makes a shitload of money off of that. Oh, all of his money goes into making more videos and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he's got all the money in the world. It doesn't matter to him. He is literally the rich people in Squid Game, setting up games for people to take part in. Maybe not to humiliate themselves, but to, you know, to fuck around for his, maybe not his direct entertainment, but certainly his monetary gain. And people fucking, please let me exploit me, Make me a pawn in your game so you can make more money. Yes! Yes! And then I'll fuck off home on the train afterwards and struggle to pay my rent still. And but just for a little bit, just exploit me for a little while, please, Mr. Beast. Please make us the real Squid Game. Oh, please, I want it. I need it. Exploit me. What the fuck is happening? It's so... I mean, Mr. Beast is a whole different sort of creature enough in his own, and that can be a whole other conversation, but it's just the idea of, like, do you not see that it's... Like, by taking part in, like, these Squid Game challenge things, you're putting yourself up to be exploited to the detriment of everyone around you. Because every time people leap at the chance to be in something like the real Squid Game, it's letting people in Mr. Beast's position know that there are people that can easily be exploited in that way. Oh, we'll just set up our own Squid Game, our own show, and it's cool because loads of people will, want to be involved that we can exploit, which means it will work, which means we'll make shitloads of money off of the videos of it. And it's... and then everyone... even outside of that, there's just endless content of people making their own little reels about, like, oh, what if I was in Squid Game? What if me? What if... And 99.9% of the time, they're putting themselves in the position of the players of the game. It's like, oh, what if I was being exploited? And then... Jesus Christ. Even if that's what you're doing, if maybe you're not setting up some real Squid Game to actively exploit people who want recognition, who want money, who want something, you're exploiting their kind of desperation for your own gain. Even if all you're doing is you're just making reels about Squid Game just for a bit of fun, just so you can get up in the algorithm a bit, you can, get yours. Every time you do that, that's what Netflix wants. In this case, Netflix are the people in charge of Squid Game, which I guess technically they are. And the people making the content about Squid Game are the people competing in Squid Game to get to the top of the algorithm. And it's... like, when a film is made, say a film costs $100 million to make, for instance, as far as I understand, anytime that happens, the production company or whoever will spend that same amount on advertising for the film. So if a film costs $100 million to make the film, it then costs another $100 million for advertising the film, which is trailers, advertising, fucking... I forget the words, but whatever. Shit they put out there, billboards, events, press junkets, sending people off to do shit on I don't know, podcasts and whatever. Like everything they possibly can to advertise this film. Because people need to know that the film exists. They need to want to watch the film. Otherwise, it's not going to make back the $1 and now $200 million that they spent to make and put the film out there. And advertising is where all the money in the world... well, not all. A lot of the world's money is in advertising. Which is why why Instagram and Facebook and shit are allowed to be free, because they're all paid for by advertising, because that's where the fucking money is. Which is why you can't show tits, because the advertisers won't like it, because they can't advertise their shit to kids if there's a boob on the website. So it's important to people who don't make, but people who produce content, films and shows, production houses, streaming services like Netflix. It's important to them to advertise. They spend so much fucking money on it if they make a film, that any advertising they can get is good, as long as I guess it's good advertising. Even if it's bad, sometimes it can still be helpful depending on whatever. So by making content about Squid Game, you're helping to publicize, to advertise Squid Game. It's a difficult one because, again, you can say, oh, but I'm doing the same thing when I make shit about Sludge Life, when I make shit about NURGLE for Games Workshop. I mean, Games Workshop is a bit different, but like, for instance, Sludge Life is an independently made game by a very small team of people. They're not spending millions of dollars on advertising. They're not raking in millions of dollars anytime someone says the word Sludge Life or whatever. But for Netflix, anytime somebody sees Squid Game, that's potential money in their pockets. So they want people to make content about it, but that means Netflix are the people in charge of the Squid Game, and they're not actively, but I mean they don't even have to actively exploit people into or trick people into being exploited to advertise for them, because people do it willingly. People willingly, actively, happily do that shit, because again, for them, you know, for the little man, it just helps make just a little more money, which you need. So I get it, but at the same time, it's like you're feeding you're feeding the machine, you're feeding the people at the top, and you're letting them know you are there to be exploited. You are a potential vessel of free advertising for whatever content the people at the top want to put out. Oh, this will be a popular thing, therefore people will make content about it because it's popular, so that will make their content popular. So we get X amount of money's worth of free advertising just on people making content about it alone. And like I said, this is very me ranting about advertising again, me ranting about capitalism, exploitation and working class and whatever. But that's what's happening. It's not just, this isn't conspiracy theory shit. But of course, you ask a conspiracy theorist, that's what they'll say about their conspiracy theories. This isn't conspiracy theory shit. This is what's actually happening. The aliens are here. They landed. The lizard people, they control everything. Freemasons run the country. You know, like in The Simpsons. But it's very bootlicky, and I distrust that. I don't like it. It does feel like people leaping at the opportunity to be exploited. People voting themselves back into the Squid Game to carry on playing, knowing that even if they're the luckiest person there, and by some happenstance they win the Squid Game, they can only do that if every other person there, over 400 people, die just so they can win, so they can have the money. And then what? How do you live? And that's why the main character, didn't get on the plane at the end of the first season. Because how is he supposed to live with himself? And that's why he couldn't just live a happy life with all of the money he won. Because as he said, it's blood money. That money came from everyone around him being brutally murdered so that he could have that money to entertain some fucking sick people in, you know, the upper positions or whatever. Being, you know, choosing to be exploited so you can become more popular is one thing, but then to what end? Like, it's not beneficial ultimately to anyone but the people at the top. Because Netflix see, you know, they'll have social media teams looking at all the content being posted about Squid Game, the show on their platform, and they're loving every fucking moment of it, because they're like, hey, look at all the people obsessed with the show that are happy to be exploited. I can't wait for season 3. See how many people are making content about it after that. And I just... I can still enjoy it. Like, I'm not sitting here, I don't like watch Squid Game and go, oh no, this is terrible, it's the worst thing ever, do people not understand, don't they see? Like, I can watch Squid Game and enjoy it for what it is, like I say, for a well-made show. The story's good. This later season, I really enjoyed this later season. They had some really good trans representation, which I really appreciate. As it is a friend and ally and fan of the trans community. They had a very clear left-right wing divide, which, if you didn't see it, then what were you watching? So they vote to, like, end the games, but like one or two more people, or, you know, a slight majority more people voted to keep the games going, so they had to keep the games going. But in this season, which they didn't do in the previous season, whichever way they voted to stop the games or keep the games running, they gave them a patch to wear to indicate which way they voted. And that separated the group into these two halves. One group wanted to keep the games going because money, because the potential winnings for one of those people meant money, and so it's worth keeping the games going, even at the detriment of all the other people, even if it means everyone else dies. As long as one of those people gets to win, it's worth all of those people still playing, which, you know, that's the right wing. And then the people who voted to stop the games, to stop the exploitation, to stop the pain and the hurt and the killing, were older, enfeebled people, you know, maybe weaker people, more females, trans people, who were obviously the left wing. And then come to the end of the show, or the end of the season, when shit hits the fan and they all get the guns and they're fighting against the people in charge, it's the people on the left who want to stop it. They get their shit together, and when it comes time to fight, the people in the right wing who voted to keep the games going are all like, no, we're here to play the games, not to maybe die by trying to fight against the people in charge. And it's only the people on the left who are, there's a couple of ex-Marines, there's a trans person who was an ex-army officer. So I like that about the show as well, that they are very, very class conscious. And that's another problem as well, is the ideology of the show is so clear in how it's made and its messaging, and I feel that is missed completely, and people will absolutely take it the wrong way, and they'll misread it and misjudge it and say it's something else. But I mean, ultimately, it's just a show, isn't it? I was going to say a TV show. I don't even know what to call them now, because it's not even a TV show. Like, you can watch it on a television, but it's not like on television, is it? So it's a show, a streaming show, and it, you know, it's popular now. Several years later, it might not be. If they stop after season 3, I don't know, but can't people just enjoy things? Well, yeah, they can, but I think it's worth at least. If you're going to be exploited, it's worth being aware that you're being exploited at the very least, or something.